right, guys, on this video, I want to talk about a very interesting concept. And it's a concept of living a slow life, living a slower life, right? Especially because nowadays it's very easy to be pulled in a million different directions, mainly because of social media and just the extremely fast pace of life that we live in, because that's how life is at the moment. So with the concept of living a slow life, it's basically being more present, if I had to summarize it in as concise as possible. And it's a very interesting concept, especially in, let's call it in the self-improvement space or the personal development space, because what's common is to actually be exposed to the opposite idea, to try to work as much as you can, as fast as you can, get rich as fast as possible, do more, do fast, and just always be thinking and rushing to the next thing. And I get it. There is, action is above all the most important thing, because a lot of people procrastinate on action specifically, and action is what gets results. Not planning, not overthinking, it's action. But the problem is when you get too caught up in action, there's two types of action. There's action for the sake of taking action, and then there's action on the right things. And both are important for sure. But the thing is, when you get on what becomes a hamster wheel of just always looking towards the next thing, doing more, and rushing, like I said, it can be you can easily find yourself in a trap where you don't enjoy the moment for what it is, or the moments and the experiences for what they are. Yesterday was Thanksgiving, and the reason why I came with these ideas, or why I started reflecting on this, is because I went out last night with some friends. We met up, we went to a cigar lounge, and we had a good time. It was just having cigars and having conversation. The thing is that for a while now, or actually more context, so I occasionally smoke cigars. I don't consider myself a smoker, but occasionally I'll go and have a cigar. When I first got into smoking cigars was because of the different networking groups that I joined, that was the thing. You go to a cigar lounge. Obviously, I just wanted to interact, network, be social. So I had a cigar, and that's how I got into them initially. And I always associated having cigars with that moment where you enjoy deep conversation. If you're not a smoker, the main difference between cigars and just like cigarettes is that cigars are meant to be smoked slowly. You take your time. If you smoke them properly, it can take between an hour to 2 hours, or even more, depending on how long the cigar is, to fully smoke. The idea is to enjoy it, be present, contemplate, enjoy deep conversation, a drink, whatever. But essentially, it is a moment where you're supposed to take your time and enjoy it, which is something that, thinking about it, is very much lost nowadays, because oftentimes, and I've been guilty of this, you eat while listening to a podcast or watching reels on Instagram. You go to the gym and you're listening to podcasts or music, or sometimes you'll even watch reels and TikToks in between sets. I've seen these people all the time. So you're always, your thoughts are always under attack. You're always exposed, or your mind is always rushing or seeking that dopamine hit, that dopamine rush, which prevents you from actually taking time or having any moments where it's just you and your thoughts. Going back to the cigar thing, so that's how it started, but then it got to a point where I developed the habit of taking my laptop, going to a cigar lounge, and then working while I was smoking, which was fine because, nicotine helps you focus. Nicotine is a very, very powerful stimulant, which I very much enjoy. And it became that habit of just going there and working while taking a cigar. But that started to slowly break that association of cigars were meant for conversation, were meant for sharing a moment with myself or with friends, and it started to become associated with work. And yesterday, at Thanksgiving, we decided to go out, and obviously I didn't bring my fucking laptop, but it had been a while since I had enjoyed just some deep conversation with friends and just being fully present. And it reminded me of that fact that it's so easy, because if you're ambitious, especially, It's very easy to, number one, convince yourself that being busy is a good thing. And number two, to just keep going and always look for things to do, even if, when, you don't really, like being busy for the sake of being busy, like just giving yourself more work just for the sake of giving yourself more work. And it's one of those things where essentially, like for example, yesterday, because I still have these debates where sometimes I'll get an invite to go out and something, and then I think, I have work to do. And sure, it's important, and depending on the urgency of the work, depends on whether I decide to go out or not. But oftentimes, the work will still be there tomorrow, and I'll still have time to do it tomorrow. But that experience of maybe sharing some hours of my time, and just being present with some friends, some family members, my girlfriend, etc., those moments are far less than work, if that makes sense, or like the responsibilities. In the sense that work is going to be here tomorrow. It is tomorrow, and the work is still there. And I did it, and it's done. It's fine. But those moments, a lot of those moments don't come back, because there's been times where I said no to an invitation, and that person either passed away or moved to a different country, and I didn't see them again. And it's things, and it's moments like that that just make me really reflect on those types of situations. So, and then, funny enough, I started just looking into that concept of living like a slow life, because there's been, or maybe there's starting to be like a change where you aim to get rich, to have freedom, but a lot of people work so much or fill up all their time with work to try to get money so that they can be free. But then when they have the freedom, the time freedom, they just fill it with more work to get more money. But the point was to get freedom in the first place. So that's been sort of like the reflection that that moment caused, because it's a very interesting thing. Like, and I do believe actually, I've been thinking about this a lot today, that actually slowing down, and I think of the times where maybe I wasn't as deliberate as I'm gonna be moving forward, but the times where I've deliberately sat down to eat and not fucking watch a YouTube video or listen to anything, and just sit by myself at the table with no external stimuli or things of that nature, are moments where I really, we could say feel at peace. I think that's the best way to describe it, but it just feels a lot more fulfilling. I am glad, however, that there are certain habits that I do have that I still keep, that keep me grounded or keep me with a very strong attention span. Like for example, I enjoy reading books. It's not a super productive use of time. It's not a fast activity. You have to really focus. But I think reading, most people can't read nowadays. They just can't sit still and read for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Or going to the gym. I don't take my phone when I go to the gym. Like to me, that hour is sacred. And I get a chance to observe everyone who's at the gym, and everyone is on their phone. And it's like, shit. And it's one of those things that really looks at, because your life is, you really only have the present moment. Like yesterday is gone forever. The future isn't here yet. And if you waste all of your present moments always looking forward to the next thing, or rushing through where you're currently living, then I don't think that's a fulfilling life. So I actually believe that obviously there are responsibilities, there are things that need to be done, especially if you have goals that you have to achieve them. But I think there's still a lot more to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a slow life, like that's still not fully, I don't want to say balanced, but it needs to be, I think it's individual, like an individual journey where you really understand first what it is that you are trying to, like the way that you're trying to live, and understand the value of a slow life, because I do think that it can lead to being more fulfilled and leading you to be more richer also in the first place. Tying it with work, which is probably what I struggle with the most. Being busy doesn't always equate to being productive. And there's one lesson that probably the biggest lesson that I've learned the past 2 years, is that volume is important, taking action is important, but working on the right things, if you can only do one or the other, if you can only work on the right things and do a lot of something, I think it's better to work on the right things. Because let's say if you're digging for gold, but if you're digging where there is no gold, you can dig 24/7, but you're never gonna get the gold. But if you spend some time, a few hours, to find where the gold is, then you have to dig less. Obviously, then it's up to you. Then you get the chance to decide if you want to keep digging 24/7 once you found where the gold is, instead of just aimlessly digging for the sake of digging. So, very interesting situation, which I think that, yeah, I'm discovering this myself, right? Because then there's that whole thing. Because, yeah, there's the whole work smarter and harder. But I think that's where the hard work really comes in. Knowing on what to work hard at. That makes sense. So yeah, might be a bit of rant, but it's just things that I've been thinking on. That Thanksgiving, sort of time to give thanks, be grateful, and reflect on the different things. Grateful for my friendships, my relationships, and it brought about some ideas that I'm really looking forward to taking into 2026. So I wanted to share this in case that it's food for thought to some of you who made it this far, that are watching, and I don't know, take some value or can get some pointers or some ideas or insights from my introspective moments. So yeah, that's it for today's video. As usual, as always, I really do appreciate if you made it this far. I'm looking, I'm something that I'm considering as far as what's next for the channel, right? Because I've been doing these videos talking about more reflective moments, but I also don't want it to be boring, right? Because I do have the intention of putting more attention into the channel, but I also want to give value to whoever is watching. And obviously, I don't have enough feedback right now or substantial feedback to really determine if what I'm sharing is useful or not. But if it is, let me know. And if it's not, let me know. So that then I can, use that feedback, adjust, make better, or talk about better topics, maybe learn how to better organize my ideas if that's the issue. But yeah, looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Just any type of feedback is welcome at this point, but it is something that is very much a focus, especially going into the next year, to try to provide as much value as possible, something that is useful and ideally practical as well to all of you. And if not, then I'll just keep sharing my experiences, and hopefully indirectly you learn through them without having to go through the experience yourself. Or if you're going through something similar, you relate, and then maybe you can share your experience as well. So that's it. Enough rambling. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, as always, I will catch you on the next one.